Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. We're just going to continue reading The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is part one. Yeah. Silence, and one or two of the Tooks pricked up their ears. Wow. There was almost silence, and one or two of the Tooks pricked up their ears. Indeed, the three purposes. First of all, to tell you that I am immensely fond of you. First of all, to tell you that I am immensely fond of you all, and that 11 to 1 years is too short a time to live amongst such excellent and admirable hobbits. Tremendous outbursts of approval. I don't know half of you as well as I should like, and I like less half of you. I don't know half of you as well as I should like, and I don't know half of you as well as I should like, and I like less half of you as well as you deserve. This was unexpected, but rather difficult. There was a scattered clapping, but most of them were trying to work it out and see if it came to a compliment. There was some scattered clapping, but most of them were trying to work it out. And see if it came to a compliment. Secondly, to celebrate my birthday, cheers again, I should say our birthday, for it is, of course, also the birthday of my heir and nephew, Frodo. He comes of age and into his inheritance today. Some perfunctory clapping by the elders and some loud shouts of Frodo, 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 jolly old Frodo from the juniors. The sackful Bagginses scolded and wondered what was meant by coming into his inheritance. Together we score 144. Your numbers were chosen to fit this remarkable total, and one gross, if I may use the expression, no cheers. This was ridiculous. Many of the guests, especially the sackful Bagginses, were insulted, feeling sure that they had only been asked to fill up the required number like goods in a package. One gross indeed, vulgar expression. It was also, if I may be allowed to refer in ancient history, the anniversary of my arrival by barrel at Esgaroth on the long lake, though the fact that it was my birthday slipping my memory, though the fact that it was my birthday slipped my memory on that occasion. I was only 51 then, and birthdays did not seem so important. The banquet was very splendid, however, though I had a bad cold at the time. I remember and could only say, "Thank you very much." I now repeat it more correctly. Thank you very much for coming to my little party. Obstinate silence. They all feared that a song or some poetry was now imminent, and they were getting bored. Why couldn't he stop talking and let them drink to his health? But Bilbo did nothing. But Bilbo did not sing or recite. He paused for a moment. Thirdly and finally, he said, I wish to make an announcement. He spoke his last word so loudly and suddenly that everyone sat up who still could. I regret to announce that, tough as I said, 11 to 1 years is far too short a time to spend among you. This is the end. I am going. I am leaving now. Goodbye. He stepped down and vanished. There was a blinding flash of light, and the guests all blinked. Searching for my best ankle, as usual. My nose. The guests all blinked. When they opened their eyes, Bilbo was nowhere to be seen. 144 flabbergasted hobbits sat back speechless. Old Odo Proudfoot removed his feet from the table and stamped. Then there was a dead silence until suddenly, after several deep breaths, every Baggins boffin took Brandybuck, Grub, Chub, Burrows, Bolger, Bracegirdle, Brockhouse, Goody Body, Hornblower, and Proudfoot began to talk at once. It was generally agreed that the joke was in bad taste, and more food and drink were needed to cure the guests of the shock and annoyance. "He's mad. I've always said so," was probably the most popular comment. Even the Tooks, with the few exceptions, thought Bilbo's behavior was absurd. For the moment, most of them took it for granted that his disappearance was nothing more than a ridiculous prank. But old Rory Brandybuck was not so sure. Neither age nor an enormous dinner clouded his wits. And he said to his daughter-in-law Esmeralda, "There's something fishy in this, my dear. I believe that Mad Baggins. There's something fishy in this, my dear. I believe that Mad Baggins is off again. Silly, odd fool. Silly old fool. But why worry? He hasn't taken the victuals with him." He called loudly to Frodo to send the wine round again. Frodo was the only one present who had said nothing for some time. He had sat in silence beside Bilbo's empty chair and ignored all remarks and questions. He had enjoyed the joke, of course, even though he had been in the know. He had difficulty in keeping from laughter at the indignant surprise of the guests. But at the same time, he felt deeply troubled. He realized suddenly that he loved the old hobbit dearly. Most of the guests went on eating and drinking, discussing Bilbo Baggins, hobbits past and present. But the sackful Bagginses had already departed in wrath. Frodo did not want to have any more to do with the party. He gave orders for more wine to be served. Then he got up and drained his own glass silently in the health of Bilbo and slipped out of the pavilion. As for Bilbo Baggins, even while he was making his speech, he had been fingering the golden ring in his pocket. As for Bilbo Baggins, even while he was making his speech, he had been fingering the golden ring in his pocket, his magic ring that he had kept secret for many years. As he stepped down, he slipped it on his finger. As he stepped down, he slipped it on his finger, and he was never seen by any hobbit in Hobbiton again. He walked briskly back to the hall and stood for a moment, listening with a smile to the din in the pavilion and the sounds of merrymaking in other parts of the field. Then he went in. He took off his party clothes, folded up and wrapped it in tissue, his embroidered silk waistcoat, and put it away. Okay. He took off his party clothes. Where did I end now? As he stepped down, he slipped it on his finger, and he was never seen by a hobbit. As he stepped down, he slipped it on his finger, and was never seen by a hobbit in Hobbiton again. He walked briskly back to his hall, and stood for a moment listening and smiling in the din. He walked briskly back to the hall, and stood for a moment listening and smiling to the din in the pavilion. He walked briskly back to his hole. He walked briskly back to his hole and stood for a moment listening with a smile in the din in the pavilion. He walked briskly back to his hole and stood for a moment listening with a smile to the din in the pavilion and to the sounds of merrymaking in the other parts of the field. Then he went in. He took his party clothes, folded up and wrapped in tissue his embroidered silk waistcoat, and put it away. Then he put on quickly some old untidy garments and fastened round his waist a worn leather belt. On it he hung a short sword in a battered black leather scabbard. Scabbard. It's a scabbard, isn't it? We're going to Google that. On it he hung a short sword in a battered black leather scabbard. From a locked drawer, smelling of mothballs, he took out an old cloak and hood. They had been locked up as if they were very precious, but they were so patchy and weather-stained that the original colour could hardly be guessed. But they were so patched and weather-stained that the original colour could hardly be guessed. It might have been dark green. They were rather too large for him. He then went into his study and from a large strong box took out a bundle wrapped in old clothes and a leather-bound manuscript, and also a large bulky envelope. The book and bundle he stuffed into the top of a heavy bag that was standing there, already nearly full. Into the envelope he slipped his golden ring and its fine chain, and then sealed it and addressed it to Frodo. At first he put it on the mantelpiece, but suddenly he removed it and stuck it in his pocket. At the moment the door opened and Gandalf came quickly in. Gandalf. At the moment the door opened and Gandalf came quickly in. "Hullo," said Biblo. "I wondered if you'd turn up." "I'm glad to find you visible," replied the wizard, sitting down in a chair. "I wanted to catch you and have a few final words. I suppose you feel that everything has gone splendidly and according to plan." "Yes, I do," said Bilbo, though that flash was surprising. It quite startled me, let alone the others. A little addition of your own, I suppose?" "It was. You have wisely kept that ring secret all these years, and it seemed to me necessary to give your guests something else that would seem to explain your sudden vanishment." "And would spoil my joke. You are an interfering old busybody," laughed Bilbo. "But I expect you to know the best, as usual. I do when I know anything, but I don't feel too sure about the whole affair." It has now come to the final point. You have had your joke and alarmed or offended most of the relations, and given the whole Shire something to talk about for 9 days, or 99 more likely. Are you going any further? "Yes, I am. I feel I need a holiday, a very long holiday, as I have told you before, probably a permanent holiday. I don't expect I shall return. In fact, I don't mean to. And I have made all arrangements. I am old, Gandalf. I don't look it, but I am. I don't look it, but I am beginning to feel it in my heart of hearts." "Well preserved indeed," he snorted. "Why, I feel all thin, sort of stretched, if you know what I mean. Like butter that has been scraped over too much bread. like butter that has been scraped over too much bread. That can't be right. I need a change of something. Gandalf looked curiously and closely at him. No, it does not seem right, he said thoughtfully. No, after all, I believe your plan is probably the best. Well, I've made up my mind anyway. I want to see mountains again. Well, I've made up my mind anyway. I want to see mountains again, Gandalf. Mountains. And then find somewhere I can rest in peace and quiet without a lot of relatives prying around and a string of confounded visitors hanging on the bell. I might find somewhere where I can finish my book, and I have thought of a nice ending. I just thought this was so funny, and I just couldn't. And I have thought of a nice ending contain myself with laughter. He lived happily. Gotta keep reading. Okay. And I have thought of a nice ending for it. And he lived happily ever after to the end of his days. Gandalf laughed. I hope he will, but nobody will read the book, however it ends. Oh, they may in years to come. Frodo has read some already. As far as it has gone, you keep an eye on Frodo, won't you? Okay, guys, so I'm just going to leave it there for today. I think we've had a really nice read, and this one was particularly exciting and funny for me, this part. We're still on chapter 1. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the reading, and I hope it's calming and helping you fall asleep or relax. And I'll see you soon. See you soon for our next reading.